Assalamu alaikum, dear friends and students. Today we will discuss about the chemistry of ethers. These are the contents that we will be covering in our lecture. So let us begin with the chemical structures. The oxygen atom of an ether is bonded to two carbon atoms. These are the structures of different ethers. And there is one thing common in all these structures is that the oxygen is connected to the carbon at both sides, which is the functionality called the ether. For the physical properties of ether, they have a very common boiling point as compared to the corresponding hydrocarbon if they have the same molecular weight. As far as the reactivity is concerned, they are very much less reactive as compared to the alcohols. This is the example for the boiling point comparison. If you consider the first structure and the second structure, the molecular weights are almost same, 74 and 72, and the boiling point is also same. This is the ether and this is the alkane. However, if we replace the ether with the alcohol, the other isomer, the boiling point drastically shoots. Let us discuss about the synthesis of ethers. The most common and the first method being described here is the Williamson ether synthesis. It's a simple SN2 reaction in which the alkoxide attacks the alkyl halide and the bromine departs to afford the ether. And since it is SN2, this alkyl halide is more preferably the primary alkyl halide. However, for secondary alkyl halide, the reaction may also proceed, but for the tertiary alkyl halide, the reaction does not proceed. As far as this nature of R prime is concerned, the alkyl chain, it could be primary, secondary, or tertiary. It makes no difference. And these are some examples. Obviously, first of all, we have to deprotonate the alcohol. In this particular case, sodium hydride is used, which will deprotonate this propanol. Once deprotonated, now this propanol has become a nucleophile. That's oxyanion, which will attack this haloalkane in an SN2 fashion to afford ether functionality. In the second example, we have the alcohol and the haloalkane for the same molecule, and hence we will be having a cyclic molecule which will be achieved by an intramolecular attack. So this is the mechanism. First of all, the hydroxide will abstract this this alcoholic hydroxy to have this oxyanion. Now this oxyanion will attack this carbon, the alpha carbon, and the chlorine will depart, and we will be having a 5-membered cyclic ether. For the third example, again we have the same strategy. The sodium hydroxide will abstract the alcoholic proton to make it more nucleophilic, and alkoxide ion, which will attack the adjacent carbon in an SN2 fashion to make iodine leave the system, and overall there will be a cyclic ether formation. And since it's an SN2 reaction, the other reaction cannot occur. Because for SN2 reaction, we have the limitation. The attack of the nucleophile should be from the opposite side of the leaving group. And in this particular case, this leaving group, the iodine and the nucleophile, the hydroxy, are on the same phase. So once this is deprotonated, it cannot attack the backside of this Ci bond because of the structural restriction. Now let us discuss about the second method for the synthesis of ether. It's basically the same method that we have already discussed under the heading of the reaction of alkene for the formation of alcohol with the oxymercuration, demercuration. The only difference is that in that reaction we use the water as a solvent, and in this case we will be using the alcohol, which will give you the other product, not the alcohol. And the first step, obviously it must be the same, the attack of the alkene to the mercury of mercuric acetate. We have a CHG bond here, a 3-membered ring will be formed. Then in this particular case, this alcohol will open this CHG cyclo 3-membered ring, and we will the reaction will end up to the ether, not to the alcohol. And this is there is the Markovnikov regioselectivity as well. You could see the alkoxy is attached to the carbon that has the lesser number of hydrogen as predicted. This is another example. Now this time this is not mercuric acetate, but it's another version. This is called trifluoromethyl formate. This group in the if it is the isopropanol, we have the isopropyl group attached to the double bonded carbon. If we have the butanol, we will be having the butoxide group attached. So whatever the alcohol you use, that's and the corresponding alkoxide will attach to the carbon-carbon double bond, and they will be ether formation. For the reactions of ether, dialkyl ethers react with very few reagents other than acids. So let's discuss its reaction with the acid. Obviously, the first reaction, the first step must be the protonation. As predicted, we have an oxonium salt. And once the oxonium salt is formed, this oxonium salt, this CO bond may be cleaved, which is being shown in the next slide. Here it's a mechanism. This ether once protonated in the oxonium salt, now the bromide that has just being formed will attack the carbon, the alpha carbon, and we have the alkyl bromide and the alcohol. And this is an SN2 reaction. And remember the same thing that we discussed under the heading of alcohols, that this basically alkoxy is made into a good leaving group for the SN2 reaction. But the reaction will not stop at this stage, because we have the presence of acid which will protonate this alcohol, and again once protonated, the bromide will attack this alpha carbon, and we will be having another molecule of alkyl bromide. So overall there will be 2 moles of alkyl bromide formed from 1 mole of ether. Now come to the epoxides. What are the epoxides? Epoxides are basically the ethers, but the ether which is cyclic in nature is called epoxide. And remember, it's a 3-membered ring which is called epoxide, and epoxide is a general name. Oxirane is its IUPAC name. This is the structure of epoxide. And we have also the other cyclic membered cyclic ethers, but these are not called epoxide. For example, the 4-membered oxygen containing cyclic ether is called oxetane, and so on. So let us discuss about the synthesis of epoxide, and which is called epoxidation. This reaction we have already discussed. This is this occurs with the help of the alkene and the peroxy acid to afford this epoxide. This pi bond is broken, and we have 2 sigma bond with the oxygen. So what the peroxy acids are? Peroxy acids mean an additional oxygen to the carboxylic acid. And this is a general formula of the peroxy acid, and these are 2 specific peroxy acid, and this is the very famous peroxy acid which is called metachloroperoxybenzoic acid. In short, it's called MCPBA. And remember, in most of the cases, oxygen has always been the nucleophilic. For example, in case of ketone or aldehyde, or even in case of ester or the carboxylic acid, and obviously in case of alcohol and ethers as well. But this is one of the important feature of the peroxy acid, that this oxygen is not the nucleophilic but the electrophilic. This we will discuss in the mechanism, why it's electrophilic. So this is the mechanism, and this is the structure of the alkene, and this is the structure of the per acid. This oxygen, which is coded as red color, is deliberately coded as red color because this is the oxygen that has been delivered to the alkene to make the epoxide. And as mentioned, this is not the nucleophilic oxygen, but this oxygen is electrophilic. So first of all, there will be attack of the pi bond to this electrophilic oxygen, and once it is attacked by the alkene, and this OO bond will be broken to afford the carboxylate salt. And this is the reason of this red oxygen to be electrophilic, because Once it is attacked by a nucleophile, the byproduct is the carboxylate salt. Anyways, when this carboxylate salt is produced, we have the product that is shown here. This is the transition state. We have the product which is called the epoxide and this carboxylic acid. This H must have come from this hydrogen. Now let us discuss about the stereochemistry of epoxidation. Addition of peroxy acid across the CC bond. It's a stereospecific type reaction. With the stereospecific, it means the stereochemistry of the starting material dictates the stereochemistry of the product. If it is the trans alkene as the starting material, we will end up with a trans epoxide. If it is the cis alkene as the starting material, we will end up to the cis epoxide. So this is very much stereospecific reaction. And one more feature is that if we have more than one double bond in a molecule, so there will be a competition between these two double bonds, and the double bond which is more nucleophilic, more reactive, will obviously epoxide first. So this is a matter of the chemoselectivity, and because this double bonded carbon, this double bond has, it's a tetra substituted alkene, and this is disubstituted alkene. You know, the higher the number of alkyl groups attached across the carbon-carbon double bond, the more nucleophilic character it owes. So epoxide is formed at this double bonded carbon and not at this double bonded carbon. Now let us discuss about the reactions of epoxides, because epoxides are the three-membered oxygen-containing ring. So they are very much strained, and they just want to get relief from this strain by being opened. So we have two methods to open the epoxide. One is the acid catalyzed, and the other will be the base catalyzed. So in the acid catalyzed opening of the epoxide, first step will be the protonation of epoxide's oxygen with the help of the acid. Now this is the protonated epoxide. It will be opened by the water molecule that has been just formed, and we will be having this protonated oxygen will be deprotonated by the another molecule of water, and the reaction will end up to the vicinal diol. So this epoxide has been opened, and we have the oxygen OH at both adjacent carbon. One OH, one O has come from the outside source, that is from the water, and one O was already present in the epoxide. Now let us discuss about the base catalyzed ring opening reaction of epoxide. Now obviously there is no concept of protonation in base catalyzed reaction, so it's a direct reaction. The alkoxide will attack this epoxide carbon in an SN2 fashion, and we have the cleavage of this epoxide. There will be an oxyanion which will be protonated with the help of the alcohol that is present as a solvent, and we have this compound in our hand. Now let us discuss about the regioselectivity of the epoxides opening. If the epoxide is unsymmetrical, so in the base catalyzed ring opening, the attack of the alkoxide ion occurs primarily at the less substituted carbon atom. So what it means? It simply says this is the epoxide which is not symmetrical. We have the methyl group attached here, and we do not have the methyl group. So when the nucleophile comes into the position of the attack, so definitely this ethoxide will prefer to attack from the less hindered side in the base catalyzed reaction, and we have this opening of the epoxide, and then this epoxide will be protonated with the help of ethanol, as we discussed. So there is nothing important or new in this particular reaction, but when we consider the acid catalyzed reaction, the reverse is the case. For example, let us discuss this particular example. And this is again the unsymmetrical epoxide. We have two methyl group attached to this carbon and no alkyl substitution to this carbon. So this methanol will not attack to less hindered carbon, rather it will attack to the more hindered carbon. So this is the important feature to discuss at this stage, because obviously the first step is the protonation of this epoxide to give you the protonated epoxide, and now this methanol will attack at the more hindered carbon. This is because of the fact that this carbon that is going to be attacked will serve as a tertiary carbocation for the time being, and obviously this reaction, this will give you some extra stability to this carbon, uh, and then the methanol will attack to this carbon, and we have the methanol ended to the more hindered carbon site. And this is, as I discussed, this carbon resembles to the 3-degree carbocation. Let us also discuss the last topic, and this anti-1,2 dihydroxylation of alkenes via epoxide. What does it say? Let us consider this specific case. We have this alkene in our hand, and we want to make it diol. And now let us consider the red reaction, the first reaction, this one. If we treat this alkene with the cold potassium permanganate, uh, or the osmium tetroxide, we will simply have the diol as we discussed under the chemistry of alkene. There is nothing new in that. But remember, the diol that is formed is cis to each other, because the delivery of the 2-hydroxy came from the same side. However, if we want the anti-diol, that is the 1-hydroxy above and the other hydroxy below, this cannot be achieved using the osmium tetroxide or the potassium permanganate. We have to use some other method. So it's a two-step reaction now. First of all, we will have to epoxide the carbon-carbon double bond, and then it will be opened by the water or the sodium hydroxide from the opposite side of the CO bond of the epoxide. So overall, there will be anti-diol formation. This is the thing that I just discussed. And the first step is the epoxidation, and then the protonation of this epoxide, and then the delivery of the water molecule is from the behind the plane to afford the anti-diol. So that's all for the chemistry of ethers. I hope you enjoyed a lot.